You feel the urge to announce what you will become, to speak it, to post it, to let others witness the future you imagine. But notice what follows. The energy thins, the urgency fades. Plans die when spoken, because speech replaces action with performance. This is not a flaw in you. It is a pattern tested by time. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Lesson 1. Stop telling people your plans. Plans die when spoken. Not because the world is cruel, but because the mind is easily satisfied by illusion. The moment you describe your future self to someone else, a subtle transaction occurs. You receive acknowledgement, a nod, a reaction, a fragment of recognition. And the brain records it as progress, even though nothing has been built. You walk away lighter, not because the work became easier, but because part of the reward was already collected. This is where most men quietly fail, not through lack of capacity, but through misplaced release. They confuse expression with execution. They trade the weight of discipline for the comfort of being understood. And comfort is expensive. It costs momentum. You have seen it. The friend who announces the business before opening a single door. The man who speaks of discipline while still negotiating with temptation. The vision is real, but the structure is not. Speech gives shape to something that has not earned structure yet. It is a house drawn on paper, mistaken for a house that stands. Words create a false sense of arrival. The body relaxes. The urgency dissolves. The mind says, "We are already becoming." But becoming is not declared. It is forged. Quietly, repeatedly, without audience. There is a reason craftsmen work behind closed doors. There is a reason the blade is tempered in hidden fire. Early exposure weakens forming steel. Early exposure weakens forming character. Plans are fragile in their infancy. They require protection from opinion, praise, doubt, curiosity, and interruption. Every external voice becomes a fingerprint on something that is not yet hardened. Silence is not absence. It is incubation. Consider the man who keeps his intentions sealed. He wakes, moves, builds, fails, adjusts, builds again. No announcement, no narrative, no identity built around unfinished work. Only repetition, only quiet accumulation. When results appear, they do not need explanation. They occupy space. They alter reality. They speak without speech. This is the difference between those who perform ambition and those who embody it. One seeks witnesses. The other seeks completion. One needs conversation to feel alive. The other needs solitude to stay sharp. Plans die when spoken because speech releases pressure. And pressure is the very force that turns intention into inevitability. Without pressure, there is drift. Without drift noticed, there is self-deception. Without self-deception recognized, there is a life spent announcing doors never walked through. So watch the impulse. That moment when you want to tell someone what you will do. That is the exact moment the work should begin instead. Restrain the tongue. Direct the energy downward. Let the plan stay hungry. The world does not need to know what you are building. The world will eventually stand inside it. Lesson 2. Stop telling people your plans. Plans die when spoken because attention is a thief dressed as encouragement. The moment you invite eyes onto your unfinished path, you divide your force. Part of you continues toward the work. Another part turns outward, managing perception, anticipating reaction, shaping narrative. Momentum cannot survive division. It requires singular direction, like an arrow that does not stop to admire its own flight. You think attention will strengthen you. You think being seen will make you accountable. But attention does not build. It consumes. It pulls you out of the internal chamber where real decisions are made and places you on a stage where performance replaces construction. Even a silent audience changes the way a man moves. He becomes careful, strategic, polished, less raw, less honest, less dangerous. The work that transforms a man is ugly in its early form. It is repetitive, uncertain, full of wrong turns. It cannot survive spectators. Every look invites explanation. Every question invites justification. Every reaction invites adjustment. Soon the plan is no longer yours. It is a negotiation with expectation. And a negotiated plan is already weakened. Momentum needs darkness. Seeds split underground. Muscles tear unseen. Steel is struck away from eyes. Nothing powerful begins in full view. Yet men hand their fragile beginnings to the crowd and wonder why nothing matures. They mistake visibility for inevitability. Attention feels like fuel, but it is friction. Watch how quickly energy drains after you speak of what you intend to do. The body relaxes. The mind releases its grip. A subtle satisfaction spreads, as if a milestone was reached, but nothing changed outside your mouth. Only sound waves left your body. Still, the nervous system behaves as though progress occurred. This is the theft. The reward arrives before the labor. And when reward arrives early, discipline dissolves. The quiet man moves differently. No one knows what he is building. No one praises him. No one doubts him. No one interferes. His attention stays inside the task, not around the task. His energy remains intact. He does not need to remember who he told or what he promised. He simply returns to the work, again and again, like a river that does not announce its destination. There is a cost to being witnessed too early. You begin to live for consistency with your story, rather than obedience to reality. If the plan needs to change, pride resists. If the direction was wrong, ego defends it. Now you are loyal to an image instead of truth, and truth does not negotiate. Guard your momentum as you would guard breath in deep water. Let no unnecessary mouth open around it. Let no external gaze measure it. Let it grow dense, heavy, unquestioned. When attention finally arrives, let it arrive to something that cannot be stolen, only observed, something already done, already standing, already irreversible. Pressure must remain internal. Lesson 3. Stop telling people your plans. Plans die when spoken because secrecy sharpens intent, and intent is the edge that cuts through resistance. A plan held in silence remains concentrated. It has nowhere to leak, no audience to impress, no story to maintain, only a quiet tension between who you are and what you are building. That tension is uncomfortable, and discomfort is a forge. Most men flee this forge. They speak to relieve pressure. They share to feel accompanied. They announce to soften the loneliness of pursuit. But solitude is not an obstacle to progress. It is the environment progress requires. Without solitude, there is no unfiltered self. Without unfiltered self, there is no honest assessment. Without honest assessment, there is no correction. And without correction, the plan rots from the inside. Secrecy is not deception. It is protection. Consider how quickly a spoken plan becomes diluted. Someone reacts with doubt, another with praise, another with advice, another with indifference. Each response adds a foreign substance to your original intent. Soon, the plan is no longer a blade. It is a bent piece of metal shaped by hands that were never meant to hold it. You lose the clean line of your own decision. A silent plan remains yours alone. It grows in private soil. You water it with repetition, not conversation. You test it against reality, not opinion. When it fails, only you witness it. When it adapts, only you know how. This secrecy builds a relationship with yourself that cannot be outsourced. You become both architect and laborer, both judge and apprentice. Men who announce their intentions early rarely notice how quickly they become performers in their own lives. They begin to act in ways that keep their audience interested. They inflate timelines. They exaggerate progress. They narrate instead of execute. They are no longer inside the work. They are above it, watching themselves do it. This split is fatal to mastery. The quiet builder has no such split. His life is not commentary. It is process. He does not need to be believed. He needs to be precise. He does not need encouragement. He needs repetition. He does not need agreement. He needs friction. And friction is always available when no one is watching. There is also a deeper consequence. When you speak your plan, you tie your identity to an unfinished structure. If it collapses, you collapse with it. If it changes, you feel inconsistent. So you cling to a failing direction longer than necessary because your mouth made a promise your hands could not yet honor. Silence keeps identity fluid until results solidify it naturally. Intent sharpens when nothing escapes, like breath held before a strike, like eyes fixed before release, like a door that opens only once the house is complete. The world respects what arrives fully formed. It forgets what arrives prematurely. Let your work mature out of sight. Let your discipline deepen without applause. Let your failures remain yours, unclaimed by commentary. Let your victories appear without explanation. A sealed mouth keeps the blade keen. Lesson 4. Stop telling people your plans. Plans die when spoken because there is a fragile stage between vision and reality, and most men expose it too soon. In this stage, nothing is solid. The idea exists, but the structure does not. The desire is alive, but the discipline is not yet tested. The direction feels clear, but the road has not been walked. This is where plans require shelter, not sunlight. A man in this stage is dangerous to himself. He believes in something that has not yet resisted him. He trusts a version of himself that has not yet been exhausted, disappointed, or tempted to quit. His confidence is theoretical, and theory collapses quickly when exposed to real friction. If he speaks his plan now, he locks himself into a future he has not earned. He builds a statue of a man who does not yet exist, then feels pressured to live up to it. This pressure does not strengthen him, it fractures him, because when the inevitable resistance arrives, he now carries a second burden. Not only must he face the difficulty of the work, but also the image he projected. He must defend a story while fighting reality. And most men will choose the easier battle. They will protect the story and abandon the work. They will talk more, explain more, promise more, until the plan becomes nothing but smoke. The early stage of creation is messy. Motivation flickers. Discipline is inconsistent. Doubt appears without warning. Energy surges one day and disappears the next. This is natural. This is how raw material behaves before it is refined. But when an audience is present, this natural instability becomes shame. The man feels watched, measured, compared. And instead of allowing himself to adapt, he pretends. He hides setbacks. He exaggerates progress. He becomes an actor in a story that has no foundation. A plan needs time to earn its spine. There is also the matter of interference. A spoken plan invites opinions. Opinions invite confusion. Confusion invites hesitation. And hesitation is fatal at this stage. Early creation requires decisive movement, even if imperfect. It requires mistakes made quickly, not debates held endlessly. But once others are involved, every decision feels like a committee meeting. The plan slows, the fire cools. The original spark is lost in the noise of other minds. The silent man moves through this fragile stage unseen. He allows himself to be clumsy. He allows himself to fail privately. He allows himself to change direction without explanation. He owes no narrative to anyone. This freedom is not indulgence, it is efficiency. He wastes no energy on managing perception. Every ounce goes into confronting the work. When he finally speaks, he does not speak of intention. He speaks of fact. He does not say, "I will." He says, "I have." The fragile stage is already behind him. The structure stands. The reality exists. Now words cannot kill the plan, because the plan is no longer a plan. It is matter. Most men never experience this power because they expose everything too early. They treat potential as if it were proof. They display sketches as if they were finished paintings. They hand strangers wet clay and wonder why it collapses. Keep your clay hidden until it hardens. What is weak must be protected, not praised. Lesson 5. Stop telling people your plans. Plans die when spoken because ego hungers to be seen before results exist. The moment you describe your future, you place a mirror in front of yourself. You begin to admire the reflection, of who you might become. And admiration is a subtle narcotic. It dulls the need to move. It replaces the pain of effort with the pleasure of identity. You become the man who is going to do the thing, instead of the man who is doing it. Ego is impatient. It does not want to arrive after the work is done. It wants recognition at conception. It wants applause for intention. It wants status without proof. And when you feed it with words, it grows bloated and lazy. A satisfied ego does not tolerate discipline. It negotiates. It delays. It seeks comfort. It invents reasons to wait. And slowly, quietly, the plan decomposes inside you. You can see this pattern everywhere. The man who announces he will change his body, then posts quotes instead of lifting weight. The man who says he will master a skill, then collects books instead of practice. The man who declares he will build something great, then spends his time explaining it instead of constructing it. He is not lying to others. He is lying to himself. He believes the performance is progress. Ego does not care about outcome. It cares about image. When you speak your plan, you step into a costume. You begin to behave as if you already possess the trait you desire. But borrowed identity is fragile. It cannot withstand resistance. The first real obstacle exposes the fraud. And when that happens, shame enters. Not the useful kind that corrects behavior, but the corrosive kind that whispers, "You are not who you said you were." Most men cannot bear this voice, so they retreat deeper into performance. More talking, more explaining, more planning, less doing. Silence starves ego. A man who keeps his plan private denies ego its early reward. There is no audience to impress, no identity to maintain, no reputation at stake, only the work and the self. In this environment, progress becomes the only way to feel real. The only way to validate identity is through action. So action occurs, not because of inspiration, but because there is no alternative outlet for ambition. This is the discipline most men never develop. They are addicted to being seen trying. They fear being unseen building. They want proof of effort, not proof of result. But the world does not reward effort. It responds to outcome. It respects what exists, not what was announced. There is a quiet dignity in withholding your becoming, in allowing yourself to grow without narration, in letting the old version of you die unnoticed, in emerging different without explanation. This dignity is heavy. It is slow. It is earned. One day, the man who kept silent speaks, but he does not speak of ambition. He speaks of reality. And when he does, there is no need for persuasion, no need for story, no need for justification. The room adjusts to him. Ego wanted to be seen early. Discipline refused. Lesson 6. Stop telling people your plans. Plans die when spoken because social reward replaces real effort. The moment you share an intention, you receive something in return. Interest, approval, encouragement. Even doubt can feel like recognition. The nervous system does not distinguish between reward earned and reward granted. It only records that something was received, and once received, the urgency to work diminishes. This is the quiet trade most men never notice. They exchange the long, difficult reward of completion for the short, easy reward of acknowledgement. One is delayed but transformative. The other is immediate and empty. And once a man becomes accustomed to the easy reward, the hard reward begins to feel unnecessary. Why endure discomfort when a conversation delivers the same emotional payout? This is how ambition decays into theater. The social world is built to respond to speech, not substance. A declaration can travel instantly. A result takes time. Society is impatient. It claps for intention because it cannot wait for proof. And most men follow the rhythm of the crowd. They learn that speaking creates reaction, and reaction feels like movement. Soon they are chasing reaction instead of reality. But reaction has no weight. It does not alter your body. It does not build your skill. It does not change your environment. It only changes the air between you and another person. When the moment ends, You are left alone again, with the same unfinished work. Only now, the fire is lower, because part of it was spent in display. Consider how often people speak of what they will do soon. Soon becomes a substitute for now. Soon becomes a story that buys time. Soon becomes a lie both sides agree to believe. The speaker feels productive. The listener feels supportive. And nothing happens. A man serious about transformation does not collect social rewards prematurely. He hoards them. He waits until the result forces recognition, not because he craves praise, but because he respects sequence. Work first, visibility later, effort first, signal later. There is another cost to early reward. It ties your emotional state to external response. If people react warmly, you feel motivated. If they react coldly, you doubt yourself. Your direction becomes dependent on weather, and weather is unstable. A man whose path shifts with every breeze never arrives anywhere. Silence protects independence. The quiet worker does not ask the world whether his plan is impressive. He asks whether it is real. He does not seek reassurance that he can succeed. He tests whether he will persist. His motivation is not fed by approval, but by repetition. He builds without witnesses, so that when witnesses arrive, they witness inevitability. This is why ancient builders left no signatures on their stones. They did not require credit. They required endurance. Their work outlived them. Their reward was not applause, but permanence. Do not accept early reward. Do not accept early recognition. Do not accept early validation. These are loans taken against future discipline, and loans demand interest, paid in unfinished projects and quiet regret. Let the only reward be the work itself. Let the only proof be completion. Let the only announcement be presence. Social reward is cheap. Reality is costly. Lesson 7. Stop telling people your plans. Plans die when spoken because silence is not merely a tactic. It is a discipline. Most men misunderstand silence. They think it is passivity. They think it is shyness. They think it is absence. But real silence is an active force. It is restraint chosen, not imposed. It is power held inward instead of scattered outward. The man who cannot keep his plans to himself is not open. He is undisciplined. He leaks energy through speech because he has not learned containment. He speaks to relieve internal pressure. He speaks to feel accompanied. He speaks to avoid facing himself in quiet. But a man who cannot sit with his own intention in silence will never carry it to completion. He will always need external noise to keep himself moving. And noise is unreliable. Silence builds gravity. When you hold a plan inside without release, it begins to shape you. You think about it differently. You test it against reality instead of against opinion. You notice your own excuses. You hear your own resistance. You see where you are weak. And because no one else knows, you cannot hide. There is no persona to protect, no reputation to defend, only truth between you and the work. This is uncomfortable. Most men avoid it. They prefer discussion, brainstorming, sharing, joking, promising. These are all ways to escape the raw encounter with self. Silence removes escape routes. It corners you with your own responsibility. It demands that you either act or admit you will not. No audience can dilute that moment. Silence is not empty. It is a weight. There is a reason sacred places are quiet. There is a reason serious rooms have no unnecessary sound. Silence announces importance. It tells the nervous system, pay attention. Something here matters. When you keep your plan in silence, you treat it as sacred. Not in a sentimental way, but in a serious way. You mark it as something that will not be handled casually, not discussed casually, not promised casually, not abandoned casually. A spoken plan can be laughed at. A silent plan cannot. It sits in the background of your days, watching. It becomes a quiet judge. Every time you waste time, it notices. Every time you hesitate, it waits. Every time you choose comfort over effort, it records. There is no relief valve. No conversation to dissolve the pressure. Eventually, you must move or accept yourself as someone who does not honor his own word. That is why silence is discipline. It trains you to carry weight without display. The man who lives this way does not rush to speak. When he finally does, his words are few, and because they are few, they land. People listen. Not because he demands attention, but because he does not waste it. His silence has trained others to sense that when he opens his mouth, something real may follow. Contrast this with the man who narrates everything. His words become background noise. No one takes them seriously. Not even he does. He is always about to start, always planning, always sharing, always nearly arriving, always remaining where he began. Silence is not absence, it is selection. Select what leaves your mouth. Select what remains inside. Select which intentions deserve exposure, and expose only what has already survived the fire. A plan kept in silence is a plan under discipline. Lesson 8. Stop telling people your plans. Plans die when spoken because there are two types of men in the world: builders and announcers. One creates in silence and appears only when the structure stands. The other speaks early, loudly, and often, but leaves little behind. The difference is not talent, it is containment. One holds energy inward until it hardens into reality. The other releases energy outward until nothing remains to build with. The announcer lives in projection. He is always introducing a future version of himself. He is always explaining what is coming. He is always describing potential. His life becomes a trailer for a film that never premieres. He mistakes communication for creation. He believes visibility equals inevitability. But visibility without substance is vapor. It rises, impresses briefly, then disappears. The builder lives in accumulation. He does not need to tell you what he is doing because he is busy doing it. His days are repetitive. His progress is unremarkable from the outside. His victories are small and private. He does not speak because speaking would steal time, focus, and pressure. He lets the work remain dense and quiet, like stone forming under the earth. Most men want to be builders, but behave like announcers. They crave the identity of the craftsman without the loneliness of the workshop. They want recognition without exposure to failure. They want the respect of completion without the humility of process. So, they speak, they tell, they show sketches, they invite commentary, they feed on reaction. And slowly, the will to build is replaced by the habit of announcing. A builder does not need an audience during construction. In fact, an audience is a liability. Every observer adds expectation. Every expectation adds weight. Every weight adds distortion. The builder understands that what is unfinished must be protected from eyes that cannot see its final form. He accepts being underestimated. He accepts being invisible. He accepts being misunderstood. These are small prices for freedom to shape his work without interference. The announcer cannot tolerate invisibility. Silence feels like death to him. He needs constant confirmation that he exists, that he matters, that he is becoming. But existence proven through speech is fragile. It evaporates the moment the conversation ends, so he speaks again, and again, and again. Each time, the plan thins further. There is a quiet violence in choosing to build. You cut yourself off from easy validation. You deny yourself premature praise. You refuse to let the world see you until you are ready. This feels harsh. It feels isolating. It feels unfair. But it is honest, because the world does not ultimately reward promises. It responds to presence. It adjusts to what is undeniable. A builder walks into a room and does not need to speak of ambition. The evidence walks with him. His habits, his posture, his composure, his results. He does not introduce himself through intention. He is introduced by consequence. An announcer walks into a room carrying stories. Stories of what he will do. Stories of what he almost did. Stories of what he plans to do soon. The room listens politely, then forgets. Because there is nothing solid to attach memory to. The world is full of announcements. It is starving for builders. Stone does not speak while it is carved. It only stands when the hammer rests. Lesson 9. Stop telling people your plans. Plans die when spoken because words become a contract you cannot yet fulfill. The moment you say, "I will," you place a weight on yourself that your current structure may not be ready to carry. You bind tomorrow's unknown version of you to a promise made by today's untested one. And when reality inevitably resists, as it always does, you are now fighting two battles. One against the work, one against your own declaration. Most men do not fail because they aim too high. They fail because they speak too early. They commit publicly before they have built the internal spine required to endure discomfort. When the excitement fades, when friction appears, when boredom sets in, they face a choice: continue quietly and struggle, or abandon the path and damage their word. Many choose a third option. They reshape the story. They explain delays. They adjust definitions. They redefine success. The plan survives only as language. The action is gone. A spoken plan is a debt, and debt always collects. If you tell others you will change, you are no longer free to adapt in silence. If the plan needs correction, pride interferes. If the timeline was unrealistic, shame appears. If the direction was wrong, ego defends it. You become loyal to a sentence instead of loyal to truth. And truth is the only thing that can build anything real. This is why silence is not secrecy for secrecy's sake. It is honesty. When you keep a plan unspoken, you allow yourself to test it against reality without spectators. You can discover that you were wrong without humiliation. You can alter course without explanation. You can fail without theater. And because of this, you are more likely to persist. Because persistence requires the freedom to look foolish privately. The man who speaks early turns his journey into a performance. Every setback becomes public. Every doubt becomes visible. Every weakness becomes a threat to identity. He spends energy managing impressions rather than managing effort. He becomes careful, conservative, risk-averse, not because he lacks courage, but because he has witnesses. A quiet plan has no witnesses, only consequences. There is a subtle strength in knowing that nothing has been promised, that nothing is expected, that no one is waiting for proof. In this space, effort becomes pure. You work because the work must be done. Not because someone will ask, not because someone is watching, not because someone believes in you. The discipline becomes internal, and internal discipline does not collapse when external conditions change. A spoken contract with others is fragile. A silent contract with yourself is binding. When you finally reveal what you have built, there is no story to defend, no explanation to offer, no justification to prepare. The result stands, and the world adjusts to it naturally. No one asks how long it took. No one cares what you said before. Only what exists now matters. Most men spend their lives trying to convince. A few spend their lives constructing. One uses words to carry weight they have not earned. The other uses silence to earn weight words no longer need to carry. Lesson 10. Stop telling people your plans. Plans die when spoken because results are meant to speak where plans once stood. A plan is a fragile thing. It lives in imagination, not in reality. It is breath, not bone. When you give breath to the world too early, it disperses. But when you hold breath long enough to build bone, you no longer need to speak. The structure speaks for you. Most men reverse this order. They speak first and hope reality will follow. They announce identity before it is embodied. They describe futures before they are forged. They introduce themselves as what they are not yet, and then they spend their lives trying to chase a version of themselves created by their own mouth. This is exhausting. This is unstable. This is why so many grow tired without ever becoming solid. Reality does not require explanation. When something is real, it occupies space. It changes environments. It forces acknowledgement without negotiation. Fire does not announce itself. Stone does not justify itself. A completed work does not need persuasion. It simply exists. And existence is the only argument the world respects. A man who keeps his plans silent allows reality to grow uninterrupted. When it finally arrives, there is no debate, no skepticism, no doubt, because the evidence stands in front of everyone. This is the clean sequence. Silence, work, result, recognition, not silence, announcement, reaction, collapse. Words are light. Reality is heavy. The tragedy of early speech is that it trains a man to live in lightness, light conversations, light promises, light identities, light ambition. He becomes weightless, easy to ignore, easy to forget, easy to doubt, even by himself. But the man who waits, who builds quietly, who resists the urge to narrate, becomes heavy. His presence has density. His words land because they are rare. His decisions hold because they are tested. His plans no longer die when spoken because they are no longer plans. They are facts. This is the final distinction. A spoken plan begs the future. A completed result commands the present. One asks the world to believe. The other gives the world no choice. So the discipline is simple, but not easy. Keep the plan inside. Let the hunger remain. Let the pressure rise. Let the work accumulate. Let the days stack without announcement. Let the identity form without performance. And when the moment comes, do not introduce yourself with intention. Arrive, and let the silence that protected your becoming now protect your authority. If this spoke to the part of you that prefers discipline over noise, subscribe, not for motivation, for reminders of what most men avoid facing.